good afternoon, Brutal Planet listeners. This is Joey here. Skillet has been around since 1996. They've released 10 albums, received 2 Grammy nominations. They've gone multi-platinum in album sales. And now next Friday, January 14th, the band is releasing their 11th album, Domination. And this afternoon, I have the privilege of interviewing lead vocalist and bassist John Cooper. John, thank you so much for joining us on Brutal Planet.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I don't know if we're brutal enough to be on Brutal Planet, but I love it.
Well, just a heads up, listeners, we're recording this interview, and I think, John, you might have a little bit of spotty internet, so hopefully we can stay on here. But John, you are originally from Tennessee, correct?
Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee.
And you live in Wisconsin. You've lived in Wisconsin for how many years now?
Oh, yeah, 22 years, something like that.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're a Packer fan?
Yes, I have to be a Packer fan or my wife will leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is a huge Packer nut.
So what do you think the chances of the Packers going all the way are?
Well, this is the truth, is that I don't really keep up with football. So my wife,
you don't? Okay.
She's the football nut, and
okay.
She says we're going all the way. So therefore, I have to say we're going all the way.
Okay.
But I actually don't really keep up, to be honest.
Okay. Well, at least you root for them for her. So.
Absolutely. Well, I know what to do to keep this marriage strong, brother.
Yes. I've been a fan of Skillet for a long time, John. I don't know if you remember this album.
Ooh, baby, look at that beautiful thing.
Yeah, I've been a fan since 1996. And the first time I saw you guys was, I think, 1998. Is it Life Promotions? They put on this event in Ashwaubenon called The Power of One.
Absolutely. I remember that event.
Okay.
That was the first time we ever played Power of One. And of course, Bob is my friend that runs that. And it was such a great event. I'm sure that you remember then that instead of calling Green Bay, I called it Green Lake. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I mean, this is 2/3 of my life ago. So I remember a few things from that night, but that's really funny.
I specifically remember saying it was the wrong city, and then I came back several years later to the same event, and I made fun of myself on stage for calling the wrong city.
Yeah.
But then I said, so this time I'm going to do it right. Come on, Green Bay, everybody up in Michigan. My wife made fun of me about it for like 5 years. Okay.
That's funny.
So I learned a good lesson in it. This is good for any budding rock stars out there. Always write the name of the state and the city on a piece of paper in front of you. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Because you are going to forget. Okay. So so that's a good lesson.
That's really funny. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I've been listening to you since I was, I think, 13 or 14. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, we lose your video. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, somebody called my phone. I'm back now.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for that first Skillet show that I got to go to. I remember, I think that was on your Hey You, I Love Your Soul tour. Wow. And I just remember, like, Locked in a Cage, that song just slayed when you played it and stuff. So
thanks, man.
Yeah. So anyways, speaking of you guys being a band a long time, how has your passion, your writing for Skillet changed over these 25, 26 years now?
Well, yeah, it is different. I mean, so much has changed. And I know I'm going to make myself sound old here. I don't feel that old, but when we started touring, our first record came out in 1996. I mean, the internet was internet was a baby at the time. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like people were not listening to music on the internet, and you didn't have cell phones with apps. So you couldn't find where you were going by putting the address into a phone. So you were touring with the, massive physical maps.
Yeah.
I remember going to all those music festivals, looking on these maps with these tiny little roads.
Yeah.
So much has changed. And so because of that, that's not just a practical life change, but because of that, the way people, think has changed, the way people consume information, the things that people care about in life, how we connect with one another as human beings has changed. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that plays into the way that you write music. It plays into the way you connect with your fans. Learning how to write a song that connects with a fan base in a digital age, it just seems a little bit different. So I think that's the way it's changed, but my passion for music has never changed. I've always been a big believer that music is a therapeutic thing. Music helps people get through bad days. Music heals people, it helps people get over their problems. And we need that right now. With 2020, with this pandemic, people are at home, people were depressed, people were lonely. Mm-hmm. Music is a very powerful therapeutic. And so I nothing has really changed for me in what I want to do. I want to help people through their hard times. I want to encourage people to never give up, especially people that are on the edges, it's people that feel misunderstood, that feel lonely, they suffer with depression or whether some sort of addiction, depression, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, so on and so forth. That's a lot of the times who I am singing to. And so I still want to write music for those people. And that, frankly, is why our new album, Dominion, that's, to me, why this record is so powerful. This is a record that it's positive, that is encouraging people to not give up. I know we've had a hard couple of years. I know people are angry, people are bitter, people are depressed, but do not give up. There is hope. And this record is a very inspirational record for people to kind of go, okay, whatever life brings to me, I'm not giving up. I'm ready to rock this thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're writing music in the midst of this pandemic, and that you're probably finding, like you said, a lot of inspiration during this time to, bring hope to people that are lost or struggling. But was it hard to think about getting back on tour in the midst of all these protocols and stuff? Because that's bold to keep touring in the midst of all this.
Yeah, it's been very frustrating. Now, that's not to say it's any more frustrating for me as a musician than everybody listening and whatever their respective work is. It's just, but my job is frustrating, just like your jobs are frustrating. You have to kind of learn how to do it in the new world, and every day it changes. That might be an added frustration for touring because you're in different cities every day, and different cities may have their own respective challenges. One city says, you have to wear a mask. The next city says you don't have to wear a mask. One city says blah, blah. Yeah. So that's been kind of frustrating, but I also think that it added fuel to the fire for me, because so much of what the album is about is facing the challenges that are inside. In other words, there are challenges from outward, right? In other words, me and you and everybody listening, we do not have the power to end COVID. Me and you don't have the power to end, the economic stuff that's happening, or inflation, or the fact that some people, I don't know, maybe losing their jobs for whatever reason that may be. We don't have the power to do anything about that. But what we do have the power to control what happens in our hearts and in our minds. And I think that's one of the things that really fueled the fire for me. And so going to these different cities and seeing all these different protocols and the frustration, I know that I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling anxious, and I'm going, okay, then that's fuel to the fire for writing a song that says, you know what, no matter how annoying this gets, I'm going to survive. And that's kind of what, the song Surviving the Game is about. Yeah. I'm going to survive, I'm going to thrive, and I'm not going to give in to this fear. And for me personally, something that I believe, maybe not everybody listening will agree with. I, of course, recognize that the pandemic is real. I recognize people are dying, people are suffering. But in my view, the what I consider to be a pandemic of fear, like a propaganda of absolute fear. I find that to be much more alarming and deadlier than the actual pandemic itself. That's not downplaying the pandemic. I just see that in people that I know. I see that in my friends. I see that in some of my family. And a few months back, I read on the CDC, for instance, a lot of people don't know this. I was reading the risk factors to die from COVID. So not to get COVID, but what are the highest risk factors to die from it if you were to get it? The number one risk factor most people know is obesity. That sucks. It's just the way that it is. Most people know that. But a lot of the second highest risk factor for dying from COVID is fear and anxiety related illness. That's remarkable to me. Yet we are being told every single day, fear. And I see it in people. And so I just want to encourage people, not encouraging you to break protocols for anything. I'm not saying the pandemic isn't real, but don't give in on the inside. You can't do anything about the outside, but you can do something about the inside. So this is a record that I hope encourages people to defy that impulse to be afraid.
It's more of a positioning from the inside to, I'll do what I can on the outside to love others and help others and stay safe, but the position in my heart is not a fear. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that was a better way to say it. I wish I would have. That was a much shorter and better way to say it. Good job. Yes.
Well, I've been excited because, we didn't have a lot of concerts here in the Twin Cities last year, but when they started going on, and I was getting all a little bit, it's just exciting for me to see people, again, from all backgrounds, different political stances, all this coming together with, to music. And it just seems like they actually have an outlet to unite and just forget about all that other stuff. And, just kind of piggybacking on what you said, just set that fear aside and enjoy something again together, in community.
Yeah.
And it's very encouraging. So
I agree. That's what music is. It's we were on tour, and I sometimes say at the shows, like, look around you to see all the different kinds of people, because Skillet shows have become so incredibly diverse, and I love it. I mean, the age range it's just become really crazy. Yeah. And all sorts of different ethnicities and clearly people from different backgrounds in terms of philosophy, religious, not religious, left, right, whatever. And I always tell people at shows, man, I'm like, dude, this concert tonight and a sporting event will be the only two things happening in America where people are together,
right,
who do not agree on politics,
right,
do not agree on religion, do not agree on policy for COVID or policy for going back to school. We don't agree on anything, but we all sort of checked that at the door.
Yeah.
And then we came into here because what we do agree on is that music is uniting. Music is a uniting factor for commonality. And whether this song means, A to you and Z to someone else, it doesn't matter. We're here for this purpose, for music and to have a good time. And I find that a really, I just find that to be a really uplifting moment. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You mentioned the diversity of your crowds and things like that. I was just thinking, how I became a fan when I was a young teenager, and now I have kids that have your music on their little MP3 players and stuff. And even my son, my 5-year-old son, Rowan, last year for his birthday, we had a Skillet themed birthday party and stuff like that. So it's just neat how the generations of fans keep following you guys. So
that's incredible, man. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Raise that next generation up.
So maybe this next April we'll have another Skillet birthday party again for him. But
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
So let's see here. I was going to ask you. I like to ask not so much about the singles, because I'm sure you get a lot of questions about those already, and there's press out there for people to read. But can we go into some deep tracks on the album?
Of course. Yeah.
I'd just like to ask you, maybe just where the music came from, inspiration for the music or the lyrics or whatever. The first one I had written down was Dominion, and then I saw it was just released as a single today, which doesn't surprise me. It's a killer hit. But where did is that just kind of what you said earlier? Just that whole, does Dominion, the song, just kind of encapsulate the whole theme of the album?
Yeah, I would say so. And Dominion is one of my favorites on the record as well. It's a little different for Skillet. It's so up tempo, but it's also very melodic. So I enjoyed it probably because it's different. It's got a killer guitar solo in it too.
Well, I was gonna say, did you have Zach Wilde join the band or what? Like,
woo! Zach Wilde's one of my favorite guitar players of all time.
Well, I know I said in my review of the album, Seth is a really good musician, but I'm like, this just put him up in the next notch for me. I mean, that was phenomenal.
He'll be thrilled to hear that. Thank you so much. He really did. He did a great job on it, and we went a little off the leash. And yeah, I think Dominion is about a great many things. As music is, a song can have lots and lots of layers. The main layer of it is what we already talked about. It's saying there's a certain amount of things in my life that I do have control over, as you said, my mind, what's happening in my heart. I have control over that. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of a little bit of a do not give in to these dark forces. Those dark forces could be fear. It could be addiction to things that are harmful to you, or it could be spiritual. It could be, the devil. Mm-hmm. In Christian theology, we could call that the flesh. It could be the desires of the flesh and things like that. Do not give in to those things. And because I have dominion, if you will, government, I have authority over my own life. And that's a cool message. Mm-hmm. There are other messages, though, on a deeper level that, since you're somebody that cares about some of the deeper level stuff, I also mean it in a sense of liberty. I think that we're coming to a time, and this is going to sound very political to some people. I don't mean it in a political partisan fashion, but I guess it's a political statement, but I think it's more political philosophy, not political partisanship, that we need to celebrate liberty. We need to come back to a place where we recognize that your individual rights matter, my individual rights matter. And if we lose that, we could enter into a very dark period into our world. And we have a lot of historical things that have happened in history. We have a lot of historical examples of what happens when you lose individual liberty. And so, just to prove that I don't mean this in a right or a left fashion, I've spoken out against things when I see them happening on the right, as well as the left. One of I think this happened after September 11 with the Patriot Act, and a lot of, the right was very into that. Conservatives were very into, let's find out what's happening with so-and-so groups of people because of possibility for terrorist attacks. It is impeding upon people's individual rights. And once you do that, you can enter into a very dark time. I do think that we're entering into that sort of dark time now, that authoritarian thing. And so it's not really a political statement. It's more a statement about, hey, we should celebrate liberty, because at the end of the day, this world doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to the right or to the left. This world belongs to a creator. It belongs to someone who has dominion over the entire world. And that God should say how things should be run. And we should be ultimately looking for something more authoritative than my own feelings or even the power of the state. So there is a deeper level to what dominion is about for anybody who really cares about going that deep. At the lowest common denominator, that song just rocks. So I hope people like it.
It is a really good song. I resonate with what you're saying. It's almost as if like within every person's DNA or every person's soul, there's this longing for freedom. And in order to get there, we need to dominate. And how do you dominate? It's not giving into the slavery of the, whether it be opposing forces or, like you said earlier, the flesh or internal struggles or whatever. We long for freedom. So
yes, that's right. That's very well said. That's almost what you're saying. is really almost more of a not everybody watching will care maybe, but more of a theological position.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely agree with that. It's a, you know, some people start off with their philosophy of man that we are good, and so we, you know, we long for freedom to do anything in the whole world we want to do. But the biblical position would be that humankind is not born good. We are born actually wicked. We have a bent towards wickedness. We hurt our fellow man. We hurt ourselves. We sin against God. And so in that sense, we actually are born into slavery. We are slaves to sin. We are slaves to the flesh, slaves to doing bad stuff. And we long for freedom. We want to be set free from that. And I think that I have a cool point, because true freedom is recognizing that I am a slave to certain things and I do not want to be, which of course is why, you know, Jesus died on the cross to set us free from slavery to sin. That's a really beautiful message. And so now I can live in freedom, and it makes me free to treat my neighbor with love and to not impede upon your individual rights and to try to covet what you have, or to say that you must do the thing that I am doing.
Right.
That's what you are doing is not my business. I am free to do what I'm supposed to do before God, and so are you. And that's a really cool theological discussion, I think.
Yeah. And John, I always appreciate the way that you approach like theology and stuff. You don't tell people what to believe or anything. You just offer hope, and you say, hey, this is where I found it. And I think people resonate with that. So I appreciate that.
Well, that's cool. Thank you.
Next song, this one's probably my favorite on the whole album, Valley of Death. I normally like the heavier music, but I'm listening to your album a few days ago, you know, and I got to Valley of Death. I'm like, this is my favorite. This is awesome. So what can you tell us about that?
Oh, that's so cool to hear, especially from a rocker on a brutal planet. I love it. You know, it is the most, you know, ballad type song on the album, but it's got a darkness to it that I kind of quite like. And it's a very personal song. Valley of Death is basically this. Most people are familiar, whether you're religious or not. Most people know, yea, though I'll walk through the valley of shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. Most people know that saying. And I have a hard time imagining that on some level that there are people that have not felt that way over this pandemic. It's just been so dadgum hard, and no one knows the future. So the problem is not just that it's been hard. For me, the problem is, and I'm assuming for a lot of people out there, the problem is how long is this going to last? Because, you know, you can go through a dark time if you know, okay, this is going to last a year. You know what I mean? Like if you have, you know, God forbid, cancer, and you know you're going to have to go through those cancer treatments, and they're going to be so brutal. The next 6 months of my life, I just got to get through it. Knowing there's an end in sight is where the hope comes from a lot of the times. But we're in a time when we don't know if it's ever going to be back to normal, or 2 years, 5 years. What is the new normal going to look like? And so it brings a certain sort of feeling of doom. And so Valley of Death was kind of this moment of taking into account, if my life was to end now, am I happy with who I was? Am I happy with the way that I lived? Am I happy with the father that I was? Did I have, are my kids going to remember the good conversations, or are they going to remember those bad conversations? Should I be acting differently? You're taking into account all the things that have happened. And I think that one of my favorite lines in the song is in the second verse, when it basically said, first verse, when it says, someone said, this is all part of the plan, but I don't understand, you know, and the reason I say that is because, you know, being that I am a person of faith, a lot of times people say, hey, that's okay, God's in control. You know, you hear these type things, but you don't always feel like God's in control. Right. Sometimes you feel like, are you sure? Yeah. Because this sucks, you know? I felt that way. My mom died from cancer when I was 15. And people say, that's okay, God's in control. Well, are you sure God's in control? Because I don't feel like it. Are you sure that God is good? I don't understand why he let this happen. And I guess that's what I'm getting at with this feeling of, somebody said that, I don't know why God's letting this happen, but we're in the middle of this COVID thing. I don't know if it's ever going to go change. I feel like I'm walking in the valley of death. And so it's a very honest look, but there is hope in the song. And that's what I really like about the song, is coming back to a place of hope of, when you're in the valley, you know, when you're in the valley, you can't see what's ahead of you. That's kind of the idea of being in the valley. You can't see where the end of the road is. You don't know what's over that hill. It could get worse. But the idea is that when I come back to a place of trusting that God is going to lead me through the valley, I don't know that there's hope on the other side, but I trust him that there will be. That's where my hope comes from. So I'm glad you like that.
Yeah, well, and not only lyrically, I feel musically too, that song takes you on that journey. I mean, just the way it swells towards the end and stuff, it builds up, and it's just a phenomenal song all the way around. So,
oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Next one, Destroyer. That's got such a cool, groovy beat, and man, Jen's feet must be busy on that song.
Destroyer is one of the most out of the box songs, I think, on the record. The riff was actually part of the riff was sent to me by my producer, and I was like, that is the dirtiest riff I've heard in a long time. I mean, it's like I'm a very big fan of Korn. It reminded me almost of like old 1995, 1994 Korn.
Yeah.
Almost like the guitars they're tuned so low, and they're being hit so hard that they have a brief moment of being out of tune.
Yep.
For any guitar players watching, you know what I mean. You hit it and it has that sound to it because it's sharp.
Yep.
And so sometimes in the studio, you need to not play so hard, so it's more in tune. But those old Korn records always had that slightly out of tune, sharp thing.
Yep.
And I love that because it feels chaotic. And so that's what I loved about the riff. It had a little bit of that chaos feel, which is why I came up with the title Destroyer. I was like,
okay,
this riff is like chaos to me, and I need a lyric that says that. And so I said to my producer, I said, what do you think about the title Destroyer? And then I said, I mean, of course, it's the name of, the greatest Kiss record ever made. Is that okay? Is that okay? Is that a good thing, or is that a bad thing? And I felt it's okay. We can go for it.
Yeah.
So Destroyer it became.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that song. I've listened to it probably 10 times since I got the album 3 days ago. So.
That's so cool. Thanks. And my wife was like, we were recording vocals here because this is like my 7th interview today, and I can't remember if I said this already. Did I already say that we recorded the record in different cities?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, interesting fact.
Yeah.
This is we were never in the same room as our producers, not one time. Wow. For this entire record because of the pandemic. We were doing everything on Zoom, and so we were recording things at home in our studio, and I would send the files to my producers who live in Vegas, and they change stuff and send files back to me. So we recorded the whole thing like this.
Wow.
So I was with my wife. Basically, one of the benefits is that I tried things that I probably would not have tried had we all been together, because I would have been too embarrassed. When we were doing Destroyer, that riff was so heavy, and my wife was like, you just need to do something on this riff. Just start doing weird noises or something. And I was like, okay, I'll try something. So I'm sure if you listen to it 10 times, you probably hear some of those weird vocals. It's like, it's like, it's like all this weird stuff. And that was very, it's very Korn or even early Disturbed, like, Down with the Sickness or something like that.
Yeah, let's get some of those laughs on the Skillet album.
Yeah, we pulled a little bit of that influence in, which I think is kind of cool, because I love that era of metal, new metal.
Yeah. Well, you guys have always been good about writing different types of songs, you know, the ballads, the heavier ones, things like that. But I found that this album, it's really a skillet of sounds. You know, you got all sorts of different sounds in there, and it's quite different, I would say, than the last, you know, 4, 5, 6 albums.
Oh,
At least
good.
in my opinion. Just it's very diverse.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Well, that was probably also a good mixture of the way we recorded it,
Yeah.
because we were bringing different elements together, and we did the record with Kevin Churko and Kane Churko. For anybody listening doesn't know who Kevin Churko is, he produced all the Five Finger Death Punch records, which is one of my favorite bands. In This Moment, just the last 2 Disturbed albums, Papa Roach. I mean, he's my favorite producer.
Yeah.
He became my favorite producer for his Five Finger Death Punch records, which I'm a huge fan of. And we got to be good friends. And Kevin is bringing a lot of diversity to his stuff. He's like, why don't we try something different? And so that was quite fun. And so I can honestly say, I think this is definitely in the running for the best Skillet record we've ever recorded. I don't always say that. Sometimes I go, it's hard to say, but I think that I think it's just a solid record. And I do think the heavies are heavier. And then some of the ballads I think are more musical or something. There's something about it that brings a lot of flavor.
Yeah. Well, I know it sounds cliche to say, oh, this band's like pushing the boundaries with this new album or whatever, but like I really think that's the case here. You guys did a really good job just kind of getting out of the box a little bit and experimenting a little bit more. So
I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Last song. Just because I am a pastor full time, I got to ask about White Horse.
White Horse. I knew it was going to be White Horse.
So I knew that this wasn't about the capital of the Yukon. I figured it was from Revelation 19. And my question for you is like, were you, well, I got a couple questions actually. Musically, this song is really different from what you guys have done. You got like this quasi dubstep thing going on. And then lyrically, were you nervous at all writing from Christ's perspective?
Right. Well, musically, it is such a different song for Skillet. I liked that it is a little dubstep, a little industrial, and I thought, Skillet has done a lot in the industrial world. We've always had a lot of that sort of influence, 9 Inch, Zombie, Manson. You can definitely hear those elements in Skillet. This one was even a step further, more towards what you call dubstep and various things. And I liked that even though it was synthetic, it still was kind of grim. It's very like grim sounding. And I was thinking, well, what could I do? And I don't know why. This is random. I haven't said this in any other interview. So we're making history here.
Yeah, exclusive here.
This is exclusive content because we're so brutal. Anyway, I was working out, and Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast came on, and I remember thinking it was funny that you got this band Iron Maiden, and they're kind of singing from the book of Revelation a little bit, and it's theatrical and it's interesting to listen to. It's just cool. It's Maiden,
right.
And I was thinking, I wonder if any bands like me, any Christian bands have done something quite like that. There have been, by the way, of course, especially in the late 80s, 90s. But I thought maybe that'd be a really cool perspective, something to do like that. And I don't remember why I decided to make it first person, rather than singing about events as a third person or just telling a story. I don't remember how I got the idea, but I thought that's the idea I was looking for, that I don't know if it's been done that way. Not saying it hasn't been. I just couldn't think of anything that was. Might be cool to sing a song sort of from Jesus' perspective about Revelation. I mean, Iron Maiden kind of sang that thing, and I think we're doing something obviously way different from a different perspective. And I think that it gave it the grimness that it needed. And so I remember when I wrote the lyrics, And I sang it and I sent it to my producer. He hit me back and he's like, I don't know how did he say it? I don't know if it's you or God or Jesus, but somebody in this song is really scary. He's like, I got to tell you, he's like, I don't even know if I understand everything you're talking about, but he's like, I love this song.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty cool element because it is a very metal thing to do. You would hear that on a Maiden record, or there's lots of bands that come to my mind, Tourniquet, you know, or some of those bands. And so I thought, why not? That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're probably not going to do a music video for that one, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if anybody's going to even like the song. I'm glad somebody asked me about it. I wonder, are fans going to be like, what is this song? It's just so weird.
Yeah.
So different for Skillet, but it's one of my wife's favorite songs we've ever done.
Yeah.
So she's into, you know, she's into indie and alt, and she's more the experimental one.
Yeah.
If it was left to me, everything we wrote would sound like Metallica. So my wife, you know, brings all this other experimental stuff to the table.
Yeah. Well, if you end up doing a music video for that song, you got to get like the river of blood flowing like 4 feet high or whatever.
Do a proper metal video.
Yeah, you got to represent correctly. So, couple last questions for you, John. Are there any bands that you've wanted to tour with and haven't had the chance to yet?
Well, man, tell you the truth, most of the bands I want to tour with, I have toured with. I've been so blessed. I mean, you know, there are a lot of bands that would be amazing to tour with that there's no possibility we ever could. And I don't even know if it'd be good for my career. Like Metallica, you know, is the best metal band of all time, of course. I'd love to tour with Metallica. I don't know if their fans would love Skillet or not, because we're a bit pop for that crowd. But there's nobody awesomer than Metallica. Most of the bands, to tell you the truth, I would have loved to have toured. My number one answer would be Linkin Park. Okay. You know, had unfortunately Chester Bennington not died and killed himself. I am a huge Linkin Park fan, and I just love their music. I always felt that, you know, there would be camaraderie certainly between the fans, but between the bands. And I still think there would be, and I don't mean that I wouldn't like to tour with them now, but there was something special about Chester Bennington, his voice, his passion, and that is a real tragedy. The world's a worse place without him. So that would be my number one. Certainly Metallica, you know, Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi would actually be a good one. I actually think Bon Jovi fans would like Skillet because we're kind of like Bon Jovi in that we're kind of hard rock, kind of metal, kind of pop.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to ask that question because I'm thinking, man, you guys have been touring for like a quarter of a century. Is there any bands that you haven't toured with yet that you'd still want to get in your career? But I have to ask this one too, John. Fight the Fury. Is there going to be new music coming out? Because some of us guys that like the heavier music, we're waiting. I'm not sure. The pandemic put everything on a weird hold, you know. But what I have said in a couple of interviews, and I'm glad you asked that, because they're like, why is this Skillet record heavier? You know, I think that part of it, I think we brought a little bit of the Fight the Fury influence into this. It was almost like, I thought that when I was listening to it.
Yeah. Oh, you're a good man. Yeah. Some of the screamy stuff. It was like, hey, I don't think it's too far out there. You know, people liked Fight the Fury. They got it. They understood what we were doing. I think we can bring a bit of that in. And I think it gave this record a bit of an edge, which is kind of the best of both. But I do hope to have a follow-up Fight the Fury album.
Well, I'm sure you got some of those Metallica-like riffs that Corey hasn't let you use on Skillet that you can start doing for Fight the Fury. So
that's right, man.
So you guys are on tour now, right? I think it's starting out today in West Virginia. Fans can check out the website, check tour dates. I noticed you're not coming to Minnesota. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Check out the dates and just ask all the people watching, do me a favor. Go check out a couple of new Skillet songs. You don't have to buy it. Go listen to it on Spotify or iTunes, whatever. Check out the songs and do me a favor. If you like it, listen to it, and please, please tell somebody about the record. That's what we got to do. If you love it, then you can buy it, pre-order the record, or go on and buy the record. But if you dig it, please do me a favor. We got to get the word out. Tell your friends about the new Skillet album, Dominion. And I also, as always, want to say a huge thank you, not just to you for having me on, but to all the fans, all their support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening for all these years.
Yeah, well, you're more kind than I am. I always tell people, just trust me, go buy the album. It's good.
Well, that'll work too.
And www.skillet.com. There's new merch up there, I noticed too. So Skillet fans, go up and buy some merch. So yeah, Brutal Planet listeners, thank you for listening. Dominion drops next Friday. It's an incredible album. Pick it up, support Skillet, tell your friends about it. And John, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.